Last time we left off, we were talking about the 2016 Major League Baseball season. In August, the New York Yankees have officially released Alex Rodriguez. A-Rod played his final road game in Boston, and then his final home game against the Tampa Bay Rays. Yankee fans, they stand up, they gave him a standing ovation. A-Rod got his presents, and Mark Teixeira officially retired on October 2nd, the last game of the season for the New York Yankees against the Baltimore Orioles. Now, the Yankees played very well, but they didn't go into the playoffs. Now, the World Series is over. Baseball season is over with the Cubs winning the decisive game in 10 innings. After a rain delay, they decided to resume with the game tied up at 7, and then 8-7 the Cubs win. Now, the Cubs had a 6-4 lead, but Rajai Davis hit a game-tying 2-run home run to tie the game at 6. And then the game was tied up at 7, and after that the Cubs went on to win 8-7 in 10 innings. Now, the Cubs were off to a good start in the World Series in Game 1, but the Indians had an opportunity to clinch the World Series title. But the Cubs came back down 3-1. They won Game 5, 6, and 7. Meanwhile, the Indians went on to win the only game, of course, which was Game 1, and their second game was Game 3, while the Indians were leading 1-0. That was the only one of the game in Game 3. Now the Phillies, they decided to not give Ryan Howard. They officially declined Ryan Howard. Of course, Ryan Howard's last game was October 2nd when they took on the New York Mets at home in Philadelphia. Now, who's going to replace Ryan Howard? Could be Darren Ruff? It's a possibility, but baseball off-season, we'll find out throughout the off-season to see if the Phillies can get a new first baseman. And of course, the Washington Nationals worked so hard, they even went into the division series to take on the Los Angeles Dodgers. Of course, Dodgers had Jason Worth. Of course, they took on Chase Utley and Carlos Ruiz of the Dodgers. And the Dodgers went on to beat the Washington Nationals and then go on to the championship series against the Chicago Cubs, and then they lost in the championship series. The Cleveland Indians worked hard, played Boston, they played Toronto, and of course lost the decisive Game 7 to the Cleveland Indians. Now I gotta say this. Who is going to defend the title in 2017? The Cubs will defend their title sometime in April. Of course, the baseball season will start April 2nd, and the 2017 Major League Baseball season will end on the first day of October. The Phillies will open up their season on the road at Cincinnati for a second year in a row. Now let's see how the Yankees do. They'll open up their season at Tampa Bay, and San Fran will open up their season at Arizona. But of course, spring training, you got to get ready for baseball. Preseason, you got practice. You got to practice your hitting, your fielding, and of course, you got minor league players that will be able to play. But I got to say, the Phillies can have a better season. The Atlanta Braves will open up their new stadium in 2017 north of Atlanta, Georgia. They closed out their 2016 season at Turner Field. The last home game at Turner Field was against the Detroit Tigers. I want to wish the Atlanta Braves the best of luck in their new stadium at SunTrust Park. That's in Cobb County, Georgia. Anything for the Braves. They could win their first home game at SunTrust Park. Their home opener will be against the San Diego Padres. And of course, they'll begin an 8-game road trip and then a homestand with the Padres to start off 2017. Now anything can happen. The Phillies will have their home opener against the Washington Nationals on that Friday, April 6th. This is the season. Anybody can grab the division. Anybody can win the World Series. Anybody can go into the wild card. Anybody can do it. Now, this is the time to prepare for your off season. make some trades. Of course, Cameron Maybin was traded from Detroit to the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. This is the time with the Los Angeles Angels. They had a hard time last year. Can they go into the postseason next year? And of course, the Texas Rangers. They haven't won a World Series. Same with the Houston Astros. They haven't won a World Series. The Phillies haven't won a World Series since 2008 against the Tampa Bay Rays. The Yankees didn't make it to the postseason since 2009, as they took on the Philadelphia Phillies, and the Yankees went on to win. Now, of course, it was the Cubs and Indians, two teams that they met last year in Cleveland and in Chicago. This is the time for the Chicago Cubs to come in and do the parade. Of course, go Cubs, go. Of course, Cubbies got blanked in the first game, and they got blanked in the third game. But they played very well, and they earned the World Series trophy. Chicago, congratulations. You earned the World Series. You are World Series champions of 2016. Anyways, I want to wish everyone the best of luck during the baseball offseason and during spring training, including the Philadelphia Phillies, who want to get back into the NL East race. And of course, the Dodgers worked very hard, couldn't win the championship series. And Boston tried to go into the championship series against the Blue Jays, couldn't do it against Cleveland. But Cleveland had a 3-1 lead, tried to win, but Chicago came back and defeat the Indians in a 4-3 World Series win. Now, it's off-season time to see who goes where, and we'll see how everything goes in the 2016 off-season. Anything can happen. But here's the time, folks. Of course, Philadelphia has a chance to win a lot of games. Of course, they won the NL East in 2008. They went on to win the World Series against the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. Next year, the Phillies will take on the Seattle Mariners. They will take on the Oakland Athletics, the Los Angeles Angels, the Houston Astros, and of course, the Texas Rangers. Anyway, Phillies did play at Texas 2 years ago in 2014. Then Seattle came to Philadelphia, then Oakland came to Philly, and then Texas had to do well, then Texas, and then the Houston Astros came in later on. And please do not go anywhere. When we come back, we are going to talk Week 8 of the NFL season. We are at the halfway point. And we'll talk about the Eagles and what happened with them at Dallas. Plus, why did Josh Huff get arrested? Please do not go anywhere. This is Let's Talk Sports, and we're coming right back. Welcome back. Our second segment is time to recap Week 8 in London. Kirk Cousins and the Skins took on Andy Dalton and the Bengals in London. A tie game at 27. Second tie in 2 weeks. We had a tie game in Arizona. 1 week later, tie game in Cincinnati. In London, not Cincinnati. The Skins and Bengals didn't play in Cincinnati. A missed 34-yard field goal cost Washington to win the game. But Kirk Cousins was trying to drive down the field, but the game ended in a tie at 27. In Indianapolis, Nick Foles and the Chiefs took on the Colts. And of course, Alex Smith was hurt. Kansas City went on to win 30-14 in Indianapolis. In Tampa Bay, the Oakland Raiders had a big NFL record, 23 penalties. Why, Oakland? You can't play football with that many penalties. But they still won in overtime, 30-24. You can't play football with more penalties. 23? You gotta play a clean football game. Gotta play clean. In New Orleans, Russell Wilson and the Seahawks took on Drew Brees and the Saints. Drew Brees won the game by a score of 25-20, but Russell Wilson was driving down the field trying for a game-winning touchdown, but it didn't work out as Seattle suffered a tough loss, 25-20 at the Superdome. In Houston, the Houston Texans took on the Detroit Lions. And of course, Houston, we have liftoff. They went on to beat the Lions 20-13 in Houston. In Cleveland, the New York Jets took on the Cleveland Browns. The New York Jets were down by 10 points, but Ryan Fitzpatrick was very amazing. He led to a Jet comeback. They went on to win 31-28, and the Browns are now 0-8 on the season, trying to get back on track and try to win their first game. They will take on the Dallas Cowboys. Meanwhile, the Jets are in Miami. In Buffalo, Tom Brady and the Pats took on Tyrod Taylor and the Bills at New Aller Field in Orchard Park. The Patriots were down 3-0 early. But Tom Brady was amazing. He did very well. The Patriots went on to win 41-25, and they split the series with the Bills. The Patriots go to 7-1. They're on a bye. Meanwhile, the Buffalo Bills have a Monday night game at Seattle. In Charlotte, Carson Palmer and the Cardinals took on Cam Newton and the Carolina Panthers. Cam Newton took a hard hit on one of the Cardinals defenders, but no penalty flag was thrown. If I was the referee, I would have called an unnecessary roughness penalty and give Carolina an automatic first down. But the controversial no call didn't work out. Carolina wins 30-20 in Charlotte. In Denver, the Denver Broncos took on the San Diego Chargers at Sports Authority Field at Mile High. The Denver Broncos earned a split series with the Chargers. They went on to win by a score of 27-19. But it was 24-19 when Phillip Rivers wanted to cut the lead to 3. But Antonio Gates gets called for pass interference, and the 2-point conversion was not successful. And of course, San Diego suffered a tough loss and earned a series split with the Broncos 27-19. And of course, San Diego will celebrate Alumni Weekend against the Tennessee Titans. Of course, Hall of Famers like LaDainian Tomlinson and Dan Fouts and others will be in the Hall of Fame on Sunday. In Atlanta, Aaron Rodgers and the Packers took on Matt Ryan and the Falcons. Atlanta made a comeback. With a minute remaining, Matt Ryan drove the Falcons down the field, and a big extra point was made. Atlanta went on to win by a score of 33-32 in Atlanta. Green Bay will play Indianapolis on Sunday. Andrew Luck comes into Lambeau. What happened, Philadelphia? They lost in overtime to the Dallas Cowboys, who are now 6-1? What happened? In overtime, Philadelphia did not get the ball. They had a 10-point lead. Couldn't hold it. But Dak Prescott threw to a wide-open Jason Witten. The Eagles should not have left him wide open. Now, during the week, wide receiver Josh Huff was arrested. He was speeding on the Walt Whitman Bridge, And then he had a gun and drugs in his car. Not good. But the Eagles officially released Josh Huff. And now, what will the Eagles do without him as they will take on the New York Giants? Meanwhile, Dallas is on the road. They will take on the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland. Of course, Cleveland is looking for their first win. Meanwhile, Dallas is looking for their 7th consecutive win. On Halloween night, the Chicago Bears take on the Minnesota Vikings in Chicago. Of course, Minnesota suffered their 2nd consecutive loss to Jay Cutler and the Bears in Chicago. 20-10, Chicago went on to beat Minnesota at Soldier Field in Chicago. Of course, last week the teams were off with the Los Angeles Rams, the Miami Dolphins, the New York Giants, the Pittsburgh Steelers, San Francisco 49ers, and the Baltimore Ravens. Last night, the Atlanta Falcons took on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Of course, Tampa came off with a tough loss to the Raiders, and of course, that was the 2nd of 3 overtime games. And of course, Atlanta went on to win a nice comeback down 32-26 as they took on the Pack 33-32. And one few days later, Atlanta wins 43-28 at Raymond James Stadium in Tampa Bay. Fantastic performance by Matt Ryan, who threw passes. Of course, Mike Evans had 2 touchdown passes in the game, had 2 touchdown catches. Jameis Winston had 2 touchdown passes. Anything that can happen to the Atlanta Falcons. Of course, they win their 2nd consecutive game. They will be on the road to prepare for their game against the Philadelphia Eagles in Philadelphia. Meanwhile, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will head on home as they will take on the Chicago Bears in last year's Week 16 matchup. Should be a fun matchup, but we'll get to Week 10 next week. But now, for Philadelphia, as they take on the New York Giants, they got to improve. You cannot leave any receivers wide open. You cannot leave Odell Beckham Jr. open. You cannot leave any receiver open. And the defense, they got to put pressure on Eli Manning. They got to stop their receivers, bat some passes, and get intercepted, and intercept some passes from Eli. Of course, you intercepted Dak Prescott last week. That's what the Eagles did. But they cannot force any fumbles. I predicted the Eagles to win 17-14. That did not work out. The Eagles and the Giants, Sunday, 1 o'clock. Hopefully, the Eagles will get back on track in the NFC East race. Please do not go anywhere. When we come back, we're going to preview Week 9, make our picks, and we'll see how the Eagles can do in New Jersey. This is Let's Talk Sports. Please don't go anywhere. We're coming right back. And welcome back. And it's now time to preview Week 9 of the NFL season. We're at the halfway point. Let's see who's going on to the postseason. But right now, we're in Week 9. We're going to focus on that. Off this week are the Chicago Bears, Cincinnati Bengals, New England Patriots, Arizona Cardinals, Washington Redskins, and the Houston Texans. But let's talk about the first game. First game that we're going to talk about is the Birds of Philadelphia and the New York Giants. Philadelphia, a bad loss in overtime, giving up a game-winning touchdown. And the New York Giants, of course, they had a bye. They had a couple weeks to prepare for the game against the Eagles. I'm going to take Philadelphia. They are going to win this one 24-20. Just make sure you stop Odell Beckham Jr. from catching the ball. Other matchups, a divisional matchup, as Sam Bradford and the Minnesota Vikings are taking on the Detroit Lions in Minneapolis. These two teams will meet in 3 weeks on Thanksgiving. But let's focus on the first one in Minneapolis. Detroit, a loss at Houston. Minnesota, a loss at Chicago. Both are looking to break their losing streaks. And I'm going to take the Minnesota Vikings. They got to bounce back. I think they're going to win this game, and hopefully they'll win by a score of 27-20. Another good matchup is the Dallas Cowboys and the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland. Now, last time these two teams met, the Sunday before Thanksgiving of 2012. Even though the Dallas Cowboys and the Cleveland Browns meet once every 4 years. Cleveland comes in with a record of 0-8, and Dallas is looking for their 7th consecutive win. Hopefully they'll get Dak Prescott in as starting quarterback, and I'm going to pick the Dallas Cowboys to win and go to 7-1. Cleveland, they have no chance to beat the Dallas Cowboys. Cleveland has yet to win this year, and they got to get back in the AFC North race if they want to win. They're 0-8, and if they go 0-9, that's it. Cleveland can't win anymore. It could be a possibility they could go 0-16, or they could win at least one game. But I'm going to take Dallas over Cleveland. Dallas is going to win 31-21. In Baltimore, the Pittsburgh Steelers are likely to have Ben Roethlisberger play as quarterback. He will take on Joe Flacco and the Ravens in Baltimore. Now, last time these two teams met, Baltimore won against the Pittsburgh Steelers. But this is the first of 2 divisional games. Of course, these two teams will meet in Pittsburgh Christmas Day. I'm going to take the Baltimore Ravens. Joe Flacco has to get back on track. They are going for a win. They are going to beat Pittsburgh 23-13. Another divisional matchup as Ryan Fitzpatrick and the Jets go on to take on the Miami Dolphins in South Florida. Miami and the New York Jets, they will meet later on in the season. The Jets, a big come-from-behind win, 31-28 over Cleveland. Miami just finished up their bye week. They had a week to prepare for this game against the New York Jets. I'm going to go for the Miami Dolphins. They are going to beat the New York Jets, heading off on a bye week. And the Dolphins are going to win the game by a score of 24-21. In Kansas City, Nick Foles will be the starting quarterback as he will take on the Jacksonville Jaguars in Kansas City. 30-14 win for Kansas City. In the last game, of course, Jacksonville played very well against the Raiders, but a loss 33-16. Now, they have plenty of time to regroup on this one. Kansas City is getting ready to prepare. I'm going to take the Chiefs. They are going to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're going to win this one. I say 31-10. Now, the late games. In L.A., Cam Newton and the Carolina Panthers are going into Los Angeles to take on the L.A. Rams at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum in Los Angeles. Carolina, a good win, 30-20, and L.A. had a chance to win, suffered a loss against the Giants. They had a week to prepare for this matchup, lots of practice against those Carolina Panthers. I'm going to take the Carolina Panthers. They are going to win their 2nd consecutive game, go 3-5, and I'm going to say they will win 20-17. In San Francisco, or Santa Clara, Drew Brees and the Saints will go up against Chip Kelly's 49ers in Santa Clara at Levi Stadium. 49ers, a bad start at 1-6. The Saints come in with a good win in their last outing, a close 25-20 win over the Seahawks. I'm going to take the New Orleans Saints Hopefully, they'll go into Santa Clara, beat Chip Kelly and the 49ers. I'm going to say the Saints are going to win by a score of 27-3. If the way the 49ers are playing, they're going to be 1-7 and lose 7 consecutive games. They're 1-6 now. They're going to be 1-7. At Lambeau Field in Green Bay, the Green Bay Packers go home as they will take on Andrew Luck and the Colts at Lambeau Field. Last time these two teams met, Green Bay, a tough loss to the Colts, 30-27. Now these two teams meet once every 4 years. Indianapolis, a loss to Kansas City. Meanwhile, Green Bay, a tough loss at Atlanta. Their offense just did not get it done driving down the field. Had a chance to get into field goal range, but they turned the ball over on downs to Atlanta. Green Bay has a chance to win against the Colts. I'm going to take the Green Bay Packers. They are going to win this game. I'm going to say 35-14 or 35-17 if Andrew Luck has got to be careful against the Packers. And of course, you got Clay Matthews. Of course, Indianapolis has a chance to go win. If they could win heading into a bye, and then they'll be home the Sunday before Thanksgiving in 2 weeks, they'll take on Tennessee and then a short week as they will take on the Pittsburgh Steelers in Indianapolis. Of course, these two teams did meet last year, and Indianapolis just couldn't do anything against the Steelers. Hopefully, Indianapolis will get their revenge on the Steelers in a couple weeks. At Qualcomm Stadium, Phillip Rivers and the Chargers will take on Marcus Mariota and the Tennessee Titans. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Alumni Weekend, the San Diego Chargers will honor some Hall of Famers, including LaDainian Tomlinson, Dan Fouts, and others. I'm going to take the San Diego Chargers. They're going to be wearing their alternate jerseys, not their throwbacks. They are going to win this game on Alumni Weekend. I'm going to say the score will be 27-23. San Diego is going to win this game, hopefully by 4 points. In Oakland, Derek Carr and the Oakland Raiders will go up against the Denver Broncos at the Coliseum in Oakland. These two teams will meet in Denver later on in the season. Now, I'm going to take the Denver Broncos. They are going to be in first place in the AFC West. Of course, Oakland set a career-high 23 penalties. Let's not have more than 20 penalties, Oakland. You cannot play to win the game. You can't win if you have any penalties. Like you had 23. Let's play a penalty-free game, and hopefully Oakland will get an opportunity. I'm going to take Denver to win over the Raiders. Denver's going to win this one 27-14. Oakland can come from behind and not make any penalties. No more 20-game penalties. In Seattle, Russell Wilson and the Seahawks will take on the Buffalo Bills. Now, last time these two teams met was a big win for Seattle. Seattle winning big at Rogers Center in Toronto. 4 years later, they're going to meet in Seattle. I'm going to take the Seattle Seahawks, and they are going to defeat the Buffalo Bills at home in Seattle. I'm going to say the score will be 27-17. Now, on a short week, the Baltimore Ravens will take on the Cleveland Browns. Now, these two teams met last time out, but Baltimore was down 20-2 in week 2 of the NFL season. But they made a nice comeback, and they went on to win the game by a score of 25-20. Can Baltimore sweep Cleveland? I'm going to take the Baltimore Ravens and Joe Flacco. They could win 2 home games before going on the road to play at Dallas and then heading out home against Cincinnati. This is going to be one of the best games that Baltimore's going to have to win. They can win going back into the AFC North. I'm going to say Baltimore's going to win 2 straight at home against Pittsburgh. If they can put pressure on Ben Roethlisberger, force him to get sacked or fumble, and hopefully they will get a chance. Now, for Cleveland at 0-9, they got a rebound, and they will get back on track. Of course, I'm going to say Baltimore's going to win and Cleveland's going to lose their 10th consecutive game. Well, that is it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed today's 3 segments. We're talking about the Major League Baseball season. We recapped Week 8, And, of course, we recapped Week 9, and, of course, that Thursday night game, Week 10. Of course, Baltimore has a short week against the Cleveland Browns. Have a great weekend. Enjoy football Sunday. Enjoy all the college football action. And, of course, next week, college basketball. Of course, we'll be on Veterans Day. Of course, we'll be back on the air next week for more sports. Have a fantastic weekend. Enjoy football Sunday, the Monday night game, the Thursday night football. Enjoy all those. We'll recap it all. I'll talk to you next Friday on the Radio Vision Network.